Welcome to the Wrestling Analyst podcast Beyond the Bell, bringing you the sharpest takes and deepest dives into the world of professional wrestling. Today's episode is packed with insight, analysis, and a little bit of fantasy booking magic. Here's what's coming up. WWE Week in Review. We'll break down all the major headlines, shocking moments, and standout matches from this week in WWE. The Analyst detailed storyline breakdown. Carmelo Hayes versus The Miz. From underdog to icon, is Hayes ready to leave The Miz in the dust and cement his legacy? We'll dissect every twist and turn. The Analyst's opinion. Tag team wrestling. WWE's forgotten cornerstone. Why is tag team wrestling taking a backseat? And what can be done to bring it back to prominence? And finally, the Analyst booking room, booking the best. What's next for CM Punk and the World Heavyweight Championship? I'll share my vision for how WWE can make this storyline unforgettable. So buckle up, because it's time to go Beyond the Bell. Welcome to the Wrestling Analyst podcast Beyond the Bell, where the real story begins after the final bell. I'm your host, Night Stalker Luc Baudier, and together we'll break down the week's biggest moments, analyze storylines, and bring you opinions that hit harder than the steel chair. We will also explore how I would be booking a storyline if I were head of creative. Because here, every match tells a story, and we're here to break it down. So hit subscribe, leave a like, and click that notification bell, and let's go Beyond the Bell. Okay, we'll start the week in review with a recap of Raw. The men's WarGames match takes center stage. The show opened with a massive 30-minute segment hyping the men's WarGames match. Tensions ran high as alliances were tested and egos clashed. Later in the show, the Usos lost the crucial advantage match with Logan Paul rolling up Jey Uso for the pin amid chaos and distractions. This gives Team Lesnar or Team Vision the upper hand heading into Survivor Series. The women's WarGames match heats up. Now, Becky Lynch proudly spoke about the team she assembled, leaving her teammates visibly confused. Words quickly turned into fists as the confrontation erupted into an all-out brawl, setting the tone for what promises to be a brutal showdown later on in the that happened later on in the show. The last time is now tournament. Solo Sikoa advances after Penta suffers an unfortunate injury mid-match. And Gunther also moved forward by defeating Carmelo Hayes in a hard-hitting contest. Speaking of Hayes, the online buzz was undeniable. Many felt that he needed the win more than Gunther. But here's the truth. Hayes looked phenomenal. His performance screamed potential, drawing comparison from myself to a young Shawn Michaels. Sometimes, even in defeat, your stock rises, and that was exactly the case here. Hayes is on the right path. Slow and steady will make him a star. More on that on my detailed storyline breakdown, where I talk about Carmelo versus The Miz feud. So that's my next segment. Rey Mysterio versus JD McDonagh. Now, Rey picked up the win in a match designed to escalate his feud with Dominik. This rivalry is clearly building towards something bigger, possibly a mega championship clash at the next AAA Lucha Libre event, which, if I remember right, is going to take place in Guadalajara, Mexico. Now let's talk about NXT Gold Rush Night 2. The night kicked off with high stakes and even higher energy as champions fought to keep their gold and challengers aimed to make history. So it started with the Men's Evolve Championship, with Jackson Drake proved that why he's the man to beat. Sean Legacy brought his A game, dazzling the crowd with breathtaking agility, including his stunning springboard 450. But when the dust settled, Drake stood tall, delivering the devastating unaliver to retain his title. Next up was the Women's Evolve Championship, which saw Kendal Grey defend her own crown against Lainey Reed. Grey wasn't alone. Ren Sinclair had her back, and together they overcame the chaos caused by Flail's influences interference. Grey's resilience kept her championship firmly in her grasp. The vacant Women's Speed Championship brought drama and intensity. Fallon Henley and Zarya battled to a 5-minute draw, forcing sudden death. In that high-pressure moment, Henley struck with a picture-perfect famouser, claiming the goal and adding yet another accolade to Fatal Influence's growing empire. Then came a seismic shift in the women's division of TNA. Lei Ying Lee, formerly known as Xia Li back in NXT and WWE, shocked the world by capturing the TNA Knockouts Championship in a triple threat clash against reigning champion Kalani Jordan and powerhouse Jordan Grace. Lee seized the moment, capitalizing on the chaos to walk out with the title in a statement victory. Backstage tension simmered as Ethan Page delivered a cryptic warning to Sol Ruca, "Look out for yourself." A message that could signal alliances breaking and rivalries igniting in the weeks ahead. Now, last week, I talked about the dynamic between Zarya and Sol Ruca, where Sol Ruca expressed frustrations from the fact that Zarya threw in the towel in the North American title match, making Sol Ruca not being successful in taking back the North American title. And back then I was talking about how at first I thought it was Zarya that was going to turn heel, but now the more I was thinking about it, the more it was Sol Ruca that would be turning heel. And that segment with Ethan Page seems to confirm this for me, that it's going to be Sol Ruca who's going to turn heel and turn on Zarya. Now let's take a look at SmackDown's go-home show for Survivor Series. So it was the final step before Survivor Series, and WWE pulled out all the stops. In the last time is now tournament, it was heating up. The tournament to determine John Cena's final opponent continued with two big quarterfinal matches. So in the first match, Jey Uso defeated Rusev. Now, I see a lot of online hate towards Jey Uso. And while understandable because of maybe the big botch that he made last week with Logan Paul, I don't think anyone deserves so much heat and hate like Jey Uso right now. Now, he proved he was one of the most resilient stars despite Rusev's brutal offense and a near fall after the accolade. But he fought back with the spear and sealed the win with the Uso splash. So Jey will advance and face the winner of LA Knight versus The Miz later on. And The Miz talked his way and sneaked his way back into the tournament as Sheamus's replacement, but LA Knight wasn't about to let the A-lister steal a spotlight. And after surviving the Miz's underhanded tactics, Knight hit the BFT for the win. So the semifinals will now feature Jey Uso versus LA Knight and Solo versus Gunther, a stacked lineup for Cena's farewell opponent. The women's WarGames advantage secured. Charlotte Flair faced Asuka in a high-stakes match to determine which team would have the WarGames advantage. Flair countered Asuka as well. She not countered, but she avoided Asuka's mist and escaped the Asuka lock before hitting natural selection for the win. With this victory, Flair's team heads into Survivor Series with a crucial edge. Team MFT wins 5-on-5 Survivor Series elimination match. Solo Sikoa emerged as the sole survivor, eliminating Sami Zayn to close the match. But Zayn had a standout performance, eliminating Tama Tonga and Tala Tonga before falling to Solo. That proved his resilience and the importance to his team. In other moments in SmackDown, Chelsea Green was having her celebration as the new Women's United States Champion and made the mistake of calling herself the greatest champion in history, the greatest women's champion in history. And that's when Jade Cargill took exception, stormed the ring, and leveled both Alba Fire and Chelsea Green. Now, I don't understand where they want to go there with this Chelsea Green versus Jade Cargill. Is Jade gonna give a title shot to Chelsea just to prove that she's better than her? Maybe. Is Chelsea gonna become 3-belt Chelsea? We don't know. But I really don't understand what they want to do there. What they should do with Jade Cargill right now is just make her destroy opponent after opponent. She did it with BFAB 2 weeks ago. She should do the same thing with Michin. Maybe with the same thing with Candice LeRae. Maybe it's the same exact thing with Zelina Vega until they give her first real challenge. But build her like a monster, almost like they used to do with Goldberg. That's what I said in my booking room, I think on my November 15th episode, if I remember right. Let me just check this. No, it was November 8th. On my November 8th episode of my podcast, I talked about Jade Cargill's title run until WrestleMania. So it was on my November 8th episode that I talked about Jade Cargill, how she should be booked until WrestleMania. And I'm just going back to my notes for this here. Where was I? Okay, I was in my SmackDown here. Okay, so I was like, Jade Cargill should be booked as a monster heel right now, and after almost destroying every opponent she gets in the ring in front of her right now. And after Solo's Soul Survivor victory, the Wyatt Six appeared on the ring apron, and Uncle Howdy came up behind Solo and delivered a Sister Abigail to Solo Sikoa. So what do you think? Where do you think is Jade Cargill versus Chelsea Green going? Tell me in the comments. Now let's go to the detailed storyline breakdown. Okay, so in my storyline breakdown this week, Carmelo Hayes versus The Miz, from underdog to icon. Is Hayes ready to leave Miz in the dust? So, just reset my camera here. The WWE universe thrives on generational clashes. Few rivalries capture that tension better than the explosive feud between Carmelo Hayes and The Miz. What began as a promising alliance has devolved into betrayal, ambition, and a battle for legacy. At the heart of this saga lies a burning question. Is Hayes ready to step out of Miz's shadow and cement himself as a true icon? So the rise of Carmelo Hayes, he didn't just arrive at SmackDown, he made a statement. But his journey to the main roster was forged in the fire of NXT, where Hayes became one of the most decorated stars in the brand's history. Hayes debuted in NXT in 2021, answering Kushida's open challenge for the Cruiserweight Championship. Though he lost that night, it marked the beginning of his meteoric rise. He went on to win the 2021 Breakout Tournament, defeating Odyssey Jones in the finals, and soon cashed in his contract to capture the NXT North American Championship from Isaiah Swerve Scott. Hayes held that title twice, setting a record for the longest combined reign, and even unified it with the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, becoming the final Cruiserweight champion in WWE history. In 2023, Hayes reached the pinnacle of NXT, dethroning Braun Breaker at Stand and Deliver, ushering in what fans call the Carmelo Hayes era. His reign as NXT champion solidified his reputation as him, a generational talent who could deliver in high-pressure matches against names like Ricochet, Johnny Gargano, and Ilya Dragunov. By the time Hayes was drafted to SmackDown in 2024, he had already carved his name into NXT history as a Triple Crown champion and one of the most influential figures on the brand's modern era. So the breaking point between Miz and Hayes happened on October 3rd when Hayes bluntly told Miz backstage, this is done. After a lot of tension, because Miz wanted to go after tag team titles with Hayes, and Hayes was looking more for the U.S. title for himself. So moments later, Miz ambushed Hayes before he could answer Sami Zayn's U.S. title open challenge, hitting with hitting him with a brutal skull-crushing finale. That wasn't just a split, it was a declaration of war. Hayes made his feelings crystal clear after Miz's repeated attacks. Fuck peace. This time I'm choosing violence. And meanwhile, Miz justified his betrayal with arrogance. I am the spotlight. I tried to mentor him, but Carmelo wasted the opportunity. So those two quotes perfectly frame the feud. Hayes fueled by rage and ambition, and Miz clinging to relevance and ego. So why does this feud matter that much? Well, Carmelo Hayes embodies the future. Athletic, charismatic, and unapologetically confident. He represents a new breed of star who thrives on speed, style, and social media buzz. The Miz, on the other hand, is the ultimate survivor. A 2-decade veteran who built his career on cunning, controversy, and calculated risk. Their feud symbolizes a tension between tradition and innovation, between the old guard and the new wave. So it's a battle for legacy and spotlight. For Miz, this isn't just about beating Hayes. It's about protecting his legacy. He's a former WWE champion, a Grand Slam winner, and one of the most decorated stars in the history of company. Watching Hayes steal the spotlight threatens everything Miz has worked for. For Hayes, this fight is personal. It's about proving he doesn't need a mentor, a tag team, or anyone else to validate his greatness. Every promo, every attack screams, I'm not next, I'm now. So it's high stakes beyond titles. While the United States Championship looms in the background, this feud transcends gold. It's about identity, respect, and the power shift happening on SmackDown. If Hayes wins, he becomes the face of a new generation, a symbol of WWE's future. But if Miz prevails, he reinforces the idea that experience and strategy still outshine raw talent. Fans love stories with layers, and this one delivers. Betrayal, ambition, and redemption. Miz's arrogance versus Hayes' hunger creates a dynamic that feels real and relatable. It's not just a match, it's a narrative of pride and security and the relentless pursuit of greatness. Is Hayes ready to surpass The Miz? The short answer is yes, but it won't be easy. Hayes has the athleticism, mic skill, and fan support to become a main event player. His NXT resume proves he can carry a brand. But Miz is no pushover. With 2 decades of experience and a knack for exploiting weaknesses, Miz thrives in psychological warfare. If Hayes can match Miz's cunning and deliver under pressure, this feud could be his launch pad to superstardom. And I think that's what's going to happen. So the road ahead. This rivalry is no longer a side story. It's becoming one of SmackDown's centerpiece narratives. Of course, it took a little backseat to the Last Time Is Now tournament, but trust me, after Survivor Series, it's going to come back with a vengeance. Hayes made it clear he's chasing singles glory, and all signs point to the United States Championship as his next target. But Miz isn't just standing in his way. He's actively trying to sabotage Hayes' rise using every trick in his veteran playbook. So expect this feud to escalate beyond verbal jabs and sneak attacks. WWE has been teasing high-profile segments and a showdown as a major PLE, like Royal Rumble or hell, maybe even WrestleMania. Miz thrives on big stages, and Hayes needs the defining victory to cement his status as a top-tier superstar. So the dynamic is compelling. Hayes wants to prove he's just not him in NXT. He's ready for the main roster spotlight. And Miz wants to remind the world that experience and cunning can outshine youthful ambition. So look for Miz to lean into psychological warfare, mind games, ambushes, and maybe even pulling strings to block Hayes from title opportunities. Meanwhile, Hayes will likely respond with aggression and athletic dominance, aiming to silence Miz and the doubters in one decisive match. When these two finally clash in a sanctioned bout, it won't be just about bragging rights. It will be about legacy. If Hayes wins, he becomes the face of a new generation. If Miz prevails, he proves that the old guard still rule the roost. Okay, so this week in my opinion segment, Tag Team Wrestling, WWE's forgotten cornerstone. So for decades, Tag Team Wrestling was the heartbeat of WWE storyline. A dynamic blend of athleticism, psychology, and drama that elevated the product beyond simple singles competition. Yet, somewhere along the way, WWE relegated it to the shadows, treating it as a filler rather than a foundation. So let's explore why this happened, why this matters, and what needs to change. The golden era, when tag teams defined WWE. From the Hart Foundation and British Bulldogs to Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, tag team wrestling once commanded prime real estate on WWE programming. These teams didn't just deliver matches, they created moments. TLC bouts at WrestleMania, shocking betrayals, innovative storytelling made the tag team division a legitimate draw. Back then, championships meant something. Tag belts were not props, they were symbols of teamwork and prestige. Fans tuned in to see which duo could outwit and outlast the competition. And then the decline, creative neglect, and singles obsession. So what went wrong? WWE's fixation on building individual stars came at the expense of tag team continuity. Promising duos were split prematurely, often for ill-fated singles run. The Rockers, Strikeforce, or countless others fell victims to this trend. Even modern teams like the Revival voiced frustration over being sidelined despite fan demand for strong tag team wrestling. Backstage politics and creative tunnel vision compounded the issue. Reports and insider accounts reveal that Vince McMahon historically viewed tag wrestling as secondary, a philosophy that trickled down to booking decisions. A symptom of the problem are forgotten champions. The lineage of WWE's tag team titles tells a story of inconsistency. From the original WWF Tag Team Championship to the confusing era of brand splits, unifications and rebrands, the division has suffered from identity crisis. Teams like the North-South Connection, who remembers them? Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch, Marty Jannetty and the 1-2-3 Kid, and even the short-lived duos like CM Punk and Kofi Kingston have faded from memory, not because they lacked talent, but because WWE failed to capitalize on their potential. So why does tag team wrestling still matter? Well, tag team wrestling offers something that singles matches can't do. Well, it rarely does, but it can do with teamwork, with double teaming, with the hot tags, and everything that comes with tag team wrestling. Singles matches can't give you that. So, and it has a layered storytelling as well. It introduces dynamics of trust, betrayal, and strategy. It creates an opportunity for fresh matchups without burning through the main event singles bouts. And when done right, think about a couple of years ago, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos at WrestleMania 39. It can headline major shows and steal the spotlight. So WWE should capitalize on teams they already have on the roster. Let's take a look at Raw. You have the War Raiders. They're perfect for brutal, high-impact matches, and they could anchor the division with dominant performances and feuds with more athletic teams in contrast. The New Day. Gone are the days of pancakes and positivity. The New Day has embraced a darker, more cunning persona. They use their charisma to manipulate and mock opponents, blending humor with cruelty. The Judgment Day, already a major faction, splitting into a dedicated tag unit and crowd engagement, could recreate a lot of things there. Of course, I think there's a split in the Judgment Day brewing with either Dom, but I don't think it's going to be Dom that's going to be going out of the Judgment Day. I still think it's going to be Finn Balor. But if you take out Finn and put somebody else with JD McDonagh, and you can have a tag team there, they could go for the titles again. Alpha Academy, comedy meets technical wrestling. They're ideal for mid-card feuds and crowd engagement. The LWO, they bring speed and lucha flair, perfect for higher energy matches and international appeal. And then you got American Made. We haven't seen them in months. What the hell happened to them? But Brutus and Julius Creed are incredible wrestlers. If booked right, they could be champions tomorrow. Let's take a look at SmackDown. A newer team with potential that could be booked as disruptors are Fraxium. They're so good. I know they're small, but that's the model of tag team wrestling. A lot of times it's smaller teams that can get some titles and become popular, and maybe they can get up at singles fame after that. Just think about Shawn Michaels. He wasn't the biggest guy on the roster, but he started as a tag team wrestler, and then boom, he became champion because 6-7 years later. DIY, ruthless and methodical, and they have abandoned their underdog roots, and now they're going for a win-at-all-cost mentality. Los Garza, charismatic and athleticism, ideal for flashy matches and storyline drama. The Wyatt Six, there's nothing to say there. There's dark psychological storytelling, and they could dominate, which they are, as a menacing heel team. Of course, there's Pretty Deadly, but right now there's Elton Prince that is injured right now. But if they come back together, they could excel with their character, and they're great for entertainment purposes. And of course, there's the Street Profits. Montez Ford is crazy agile. And Angelo Dawkins has improved leaps and bounds since he came up on the main roster some years ago. And he's still improving. And that team could be the dominant force in SmackDown. So the path forward. If WWE wants to restore tag wrestling, here's what they have to do. They have to have consistent booking. Stop breaking teams for short-term singles pushes. Of course, you have to break teams sometimes. If you want to create if you see one of the team members that you see as a big star, again, example, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, those are the two best examples I can see. Bret Hart, they broke him up with Jim Neidhart, and Michaels with Marty Jannetty, and they became world champion. What about their partners? Jannetty never was a singles. Well, he won the Intercontinental Champion, but he never was a world champion. Same thing with Jim Neidhart. You have to have meaningful titles that treat the tag belts as prestigious and not transitional. You gotta have good storylines around tag team titles. If you want them to be relevant, that's the way to go. Creative investment. You give tag team storylines beyond we're partners. That doesn't work. Give them storylines. Like a good example was in SmackDown recently when all the teams were battling each other for a chance at the titles. And they were like DIY were playing disruptors with the other teams, and that was good back then. Then when the Wyatt Six won the titles, what's the storyline? There's none. And I like that Wyatt Six faction. It's great, but you gotta do something with those titles if you want them to be relevant. You gotta make main event opportunities. Let tag matches headline more often. They've proven they can. They proved that over and over again that they can main event. Again, I'm going to go with my example. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn versus the Usos that headlined night one of WrestleMania just two and a half to 3 years ago. Why not? So tag team wrestling isn't just a relic of WWE's past. It's a vital ingredient for its future. Fans crave variety, and nothing delivers that better than 2-on-2 warfare. It's time WWE remembers its forgotten cornerstone and gives the tag division the respect it deserves. Welcome back to the Analyst's Booking Room. Today we're diving into what I believe is the perfect way to book CM Punk at the World Heavyweight Championship from now until WrestleMania. So the current situation is CM Punk shocked the world on November 1st when he captured the World Heavyweight Championship by defeating Jey Uso after Seth Rollins was forced to vacate the title. Since then, Punk has been riding high as the self-proclaimed best in the world. But who's next? Braun Breaker's a contender, sure, but it's not his time yet. So here's how I'd book the road to WrestleMania if I were head of WWE Creative. So the road to the Royal Rumble. Picture this. Saturday night's main event, December 13th. CM Punk defends against Braun Breaker in a hard-hitting match and retains. As Punk heads backstage, Gunther's music hits. They cross paths in the aisle. An intense stare down. Gunther's eyes lock on Punk's championship. The seeds are planted. Gunther, which would have won the last time is now a tournament, and I think he will, defeats John Cena in his final WWE match. And after the match, Gunther declares, "I've beaten the legend, now I'll win the Rumble and reclaim what's mine, the World Heavyweight Championship." So Royal Rumble comes. At the Rumble, Punk retains his title against, maybe again, Braun Breaker again, or whoever it can be, or Punk maybe not wrestling at all at the Royal Rumble. And Gunther enters a Rumble, dominates, but falls short. And Sami Zayn wins the Royal Rumble. So just to be consistent with the booking I made, the fantasy booking I made last week, with Sami Zayn winning the Rumble and going on to WrestleMania to wrestle Drew McIntyre for the WWE Undisputed Championship. So Gunther furious backstage says, "I don't need the Rumble, I'll take the harder road." So the road to the Elimination Chamber, Gunther announces that he's entering the chamber, and he says, "I will crush everyone and make CM Punk can't avoid me. I'm the ring general." Meanwhile, Punk closes his feud, well, at least temporarily, with the Vision defending against Bronson Reed at the chamber. So, Elimination Chamber comes. Gunther enters number one and delivers a historic performance. Other participants would be Jey Uso, Braun Breaker, LA Knight, Sheamus, and Logan Paul or Finn Balor. And Gunther eliminates everyone, finishing with Jey Uso, just like Shayna Baszler's dominant run in 2020 when she eliminated everybody in the women's chamber match that year. And after the match, Gunther can pick up the mic and say, "Punk, your time is up. At WrestleMania, I will break you and restore discipline and take back what's mine." So the road road to WrestleMania, Gunther can dominate every opponent on his path. And every time he crosses path with Punk, he reminds him that he's going to take the title back. But CM Punk can also remind him, "Hey, Gunther, I've beaten you at SummerSlam. I took that title from you at SummerSlam. I did it once, and I'll do it again. I'm the best in the world, and I'm going to beat you again." Gunther can respond, "SummerSlam was another era. At WrestleMania, I will silence you and prove that I am the best in the world by beating you and taking back what's mine." So WrestleMania comes. CM Punk versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. And after an epic, hard-hitting battle, Gunther wins, and the ring general begins a third reign of dominance with the World Heavyweight Championship. So why does this work? Well, it's logical, it's layered, and it gives us big moments. Cena's farewell, the stare down, Gunther's chamber domination, and a massive payoff at WrestleMania. So that's my booking. What do you think? Should Punk retain and keep his best in the world claim alive? Or is it time for Gunther to usher in a new era of discipline? Hit me up with your thoughts. Okay, so for the Survivor Series predictions. So Stephanie Vaquera versus Nikki Bella. Stephanie Vaquera walks into Survivor Series as a dominant champion, and she's not about to let that change. Expect a high-hitting contest where her technical precision and relentless aggression keeps her challenger on the defensive. Vaquera's ability to control the pace will be the deciding factor. Every counter, every submission attempt will remind the world why she's the standard bearer. When the dust settles, Stephanie Vaquera will stand tall, title in hand, proving once again that her reign is far from over. I think Dominik Mysterio will regain the Intercontinental Championship, probably with some help from his Judgment Day buddies or from El Grande Americano and the Americanos. But he's been clawing his way back to the spotlight, and Survivor Series is redemption. So Dominik will exploit every opening using his cunning and ability to outmaneuver his opponent. Expect interference, teases, and mind games, but ultimately Dominik's resilience and opportunistic style will pay off. When the final bell rings, the Intercontinental Championship returns to the man who thrives on controversy, Dominik Mysterio. In the WarGames match on the men's side, the men's WarGames promises chaos, but Roman thrives in chaos. As the tribal chiefs, Roman Reigns will endure punishment, rally his team, and deliver when it matters most. Bronson Reed's power will dominate early, but his overconfidence becomes his downfall. In the closing moment, Roman summons his signature ruthlessness, and he will take the final pin over Bronson Reed after a spear through a table in the corner. And that will be the statement that echoes that Roman Reigns is still the head of the table in the most brutal battlefield. On the women's side, I think that it's a collision of eras and egos. Becky Lynch is ready to repeat history, but AJ Lee's cunning and experience will shine. Expect high drama, daring spots, probably another dive from the top of the cage with a garbage can over her from Io Sky. She already did it 2 times, and why not a third? Third time's a charm, right? In the climax, Becky will seize her moment, delivering a decisive Manhattan slam on a chair to AJ Lee for the pin. It's not just a victory, it's a declaration that the man remains the backbone of the women's division. So those are my predictions. Stephanie Becerra retains. Dominik Mysterio wins back the Intercontinental Championship. Roman pins Bronson for the win. And Becky Lynch pins AJ Lee, making it, I think, the first time that the heel team will win a women's Survivor Series match. I think. I'm not sure. In next week's episode, we'll take a look at the Analyst detailed storyline breakdown. I will take a look at the NXT Championship. Will Ricky Sainz stand tall or fall to Obafemi? Because it's deadline next week. So I'm going to make predictions for NXT deadline in my episode, in my preview and interaction segment of my next week's episode. The Wrestling Analyst's Opinion segment, I will take a look at who could be the 2026 Royal Rumble winners and why. And in my booking room, I have not decided yet which storyline I'm going to do, but I'm thinking about making a storyline about these storylines right now. I'm thinking about making a booking room about these storylines. And I talked about this one earlier, Melo versus Miz. How Carmelo Hayes will get out of Miz's shadow and crosshair. I'm going maybe with a NXT storyline this time. The inevitable breakup that's coming sooner or later. Zarya versus Sol Ruka. And a tag team storyline that's probably going to heat up after Survivor Series, WarGames, the Kabuki Warriors versus Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, is a WrestleMania Women's Tag Team title match in store. And let's take a look at what happened today in WWE history. We go back in 1999 in an episode of Raw. There was a wedding that was supposed to take place between Stephanie McMahon and the late Test. God rest his soul. But Triple H crashed the wedding when he revealed that he already had married a semi-conscious Stephanie in a Las Vegas drive-through chapel. Later on, launching the famous McMahon-Helmsley era. I also want to wish a happy birthday to Jerry the King Lawler, who turns 76 today, and to John Bradshaw Layfield, who turned 59 today. Well, that's it for me this week. Tell me what you're thinking in the comments. Leave a like. Hit that notification bell. And most of all, subscribe to this channel. Have a nice week. That's it for this week, and thank you for listening to the Wrestling Analyst Podcast Beyond the Bell. If you loved what you heard, smash that subscribe button, drop a like, and hit that notification bell so you never miss the action. Got opinions? Share them in the comments. I want to hear your take. So until next time, stay loud, stay proud, and keep going Beyond the Bell.